Shana Tova. I'm going to tell you a little something about me. Oh, you guys are excited. All right. I'll make it good. Oh, no comment. Make me blush in front of all these people, Michael Opel. Shame on you. Well, what I was going to tell you is how the second day of Rosh Hashanah is basically my favorite day of the high holidays. And I feel like with that setup, I really just let you guys down. That's the thing that I want to share about myself. But why is that? It's really because of all of you being here. Because when I look in this room on the second day, I see that these are the hardcore people. These are the people who make it out after all of Sunday night and yesterday. Say, I want to come back. And there are folks here who I know go to other synagogues. There are even other rabbis here. And there are people who every year I know I will see them at second day Rosh Hashanah, even if they aren't members here at Temple Judea. And it's kind of like for me, second day, I'll give you an analogy that you guys will understand since you're fellow hardcore people. The folks from yesterday wouldn't get it. But it's like when you're running a marathon, and you hit that wall. That's kind of how I was feeling yesterday. And then you get your second wind. That's second day of Rosh Hashanah for me because it's the day when we get to see one another and form a special, different type of relationship. And often unique relationships that are formed on this day here at Temple Judea. And it's taught really, though, what's the difference between first and second day Rosh Hashanah? Well, on the first day of Rosh Hashanah, that's the day that we learned that humankind was created. And why was there a specific day just for the creation of humankind? Well, I like to think that it's because we were created in God's image and likeness. And one of the components that we took from God is the need for interpersonal relationships. For God, the thought of having plants, fish, birds, and animals that could not intellectually form a relationship with something greater than themselves in order to actively strive to be a part of the ongoing process of creation and partners in making a better world was perhaps a lonely existence for the divine presence. It was for this reason that when humankind behaved so selfishly that God decided to wipe nearly all of humanity off the earth, God still spared Noah and his family as to preserve the possibility of new relationships. This reason for our preservation highlights the importance of the second day of Rosh Hashanah. If Rosh Hashanah was the day in which humankind was created, then today represents the day after, the day of forming a new relationship, which involves the dedication that goes into making ourselves better than we were on day one. As God preserved humankind after the flood, we learned that it's never too late to have our own symbolic second day, our chance to make tshuva, a returning to a relationship or perhaps creating a new relationship with God and the world that we inhabit. This desire to redefine ourselves and our relations with others, when we know that there is a potential for better, is at the core of our high holidays. As we plead with God to write us into the book of life for yet another year, we wish each other, but also hope for ourselves, a Shana Tova. We translate Shana Tova to mean a good year, but the root of the word Shana is the same as the root for the verb to change. We ask to be strengthened to make changes in our destinies, in our interpersonal relationships, in ourselves, our careers, and our relationships with God. We ask for a second day to recreate ourselves. This second day can really come at any time for us. For Abraham, it came as a spiritual and physical change when he circumcised himself at the age of 99 to redefine his relationship with God. Jacob's second day moment came when his name was changed to Yisrael, and he went from being an irresponsible youth to one of our great patriarchs through creating a new relationship based on struggle, but also respect with God. And Moses had his second day at the age of 40 when he ceased defining himself as an Egyptian by striking a taskmaster who was beating an Israelite. He then had a second day at the age of 80 when he left his lowly life as a shepherd in the deserts of Midian and returned to Egypt to be the giver of freedom for his people. Even in contemporary times, we see examples of how we can go from an ordinary experience to one that's extraordinary and recreate ourselves and our purpose in this world. I'm sure some of you have had moments where you've said, I'm going to recreate who I am later on in life. One of the examples I like to think of is the story of this boy who grew up in Kansas. He was one of 7 sons, and all of his brothers were very successful. He joined the military at a young age, but they went off to college instead, and they got great degrees and became successful engineers, lawyers, businessmen, and academics. And this man, he decided to stay in the military. And throughout the first 30 years of his military service, he slowly worked his way up in the ranks, but not to anything meaningful. He was considered, like his family actually pitied him. And at times, he regretted his life decisions. He was in his mid-40s and was considered by far of the 7 boys the least successful of all the Eisenhower sons. Yet, as the world changed around him, Dwight Eisenhower found a new path for him to change himself and his destiny to become one of the greatest military leaders in world history, fighting valiantly for the cause of righteousness against the most extreme wickedness the world had ever seen. Less than 2 decades after being considered the unsuccessful Eisenhower child, he became the President of the United States. His motivation became the slogan of the Army in 1981, only recently after the Army had changed from a mandatory draft to a volunteer service. And that slogan was, "Be all that you can be." Now, previously the Army had tried to attract volunteers with catchy jingles, but that didn't work so well. Instead, for everybody who was watching on TV or walking past a recruitment station, this motto challenged them to make a change, to give themselves a chance to redefine their relationship with the world, becoming even more today than they were yesterday. As I mentioned in my sermon yesterday, there are many names of God which show different attributes and temperaments of the divine. And the Torah begins in talking about that story of how we were created on what we traditionally say is Rosh Hashanah Day, by saying that we were created in God's image and likeness. So the question is, which God name do we share the greatest likeness? I believe it to be the one in which God is telling Moses to refer to God as Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, which can be translated as, I will be that which I will become. This God, Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, is the Jewish God. We are the ones that will be the ones that we will become. We are the ones who strive to be all that we can be. We are the ones who recognize that who we are today is a stepping stone on our path towards our desired selves and place in the world as we are partners with God in continuing the process of creation, ever continuing to create ourselves and the world around us. We have the ability to pave our own way to greatness rather than a predetermined destiny. As President Barack Obama reminded us at the funeral of Shimon Peres last week, when he recounted how he and his late Israeli counterpart exclaimed to each other how unlikely it was that a Jewish boy born in the 1920s in a small Polish shtetl and a half-black man raised by a single mother in the 1960s in America would grow up to be Nobel Peace Prize winners, leaders of their countries, and standing together in the Oval Office. Our lives are exciting dramas that can take unexpected plot twists at any moment. May this second day of Rosh Hashanah be a reminder to you that we are not trapped by the present circumstances, but rather at any age we have the power to form a second day of creation for ourselves. May this Shana, this year, be full of happiness, sweetness, health, and shonim, the changes you wish to see in yourself and the world. Ken Yehi Ratzon.